Hi, everybody. Welcome. Sorry we're running a little late here today. I'm Terry, holding your space, and Shara Mullan is going to be here in a minute. We hope. She is detained via, I'm going to call it, I'm going to blame it on astrology again, the time jumping. So she's having a hard time getting her mic and her phone or her mic and her camera to work in StreamYard. So no worries. We can do this all day long, as Rosanna Cash said years ago. All right. Hey, Annie Bear, welcome. I'm so glad you're here, honey. Jeff at Tarot Ass Backwards, welcome. Hey, Sal. Oh my God, Sal made the most beautiful sourdough bread that she sent me. And she said, I'm just going to throw in a few ginger snaps to go with it. Best ginger snaps ever. And there were like dozens of ginger snaps. Yeah. Yeah. Shara is amazing, isn't she? Yeah. Right, Annie Bear? She is just phenomenal. So, if this doesn't work, that's okay. And I was thinking about the funniness of having a trauma therapist, stress and trauma therapist that was having a hard time with something. That's a good person to have a hard time, right? Aw, Annie Bear's holding down the fort. Gonna raid the kitchen. Yeah, I'm on StreamYard. That's right. I had to double check. Hey, Sharon. Nice to see you. Hi, Charlie. Sage of Fire. Ooh, Charlie. What a nice name. I love that. Love that. Teresa Balthazar. Hello, beautiful. Gerald. Yes, I mentioned Tarot Stash. I mentioned ginger snaps. Sal makes the best ginger snaps I've ever had. There have to be like butter, sugar, and ginger. That's all. That's all you need, folks. So, yeah. Someone did mention it. Let me see. Oh, it won't work. That's okay. We'll do it another time. I'll just tell her. We will do it another time. Okay. Yeah. So it's not working. It's okay. So we can talk about anything we want to talk about. Hey, Mary, if you guys want to talk about stress and trauma, I did a little bit of research and I've had a lot of experience, just so happens. So we can talk about that. I think most everybody here is a searcher, and usually that means that we've had something come up in our lives, or as I like to say, effing growth opportunities, FGOs. So, we can talk about that. Oh my God, yes, Gerald, you've almost finished the ginger snaps she sent me. They're magical. They disappeared quickly. I thought surely we would keep them around for at least a week. Gerald, I'm almost embarrassed to say ours are crumbs, the crumbs and the crumbles left. So, which is the good part still. Gosh, yeah. Anyway, so if you guys would like to do that, we can talk about trauma, and then we can pull some cards too, and we can do both. So, and we'll just talk to Sharon another time. And I just came from George's house. So, Annie Bear, such a good question. I will star that, honey. Yeah. Hi, Lori. Hi, Oil Painter. Hi, Diana. And Shara is having technical difficulties. She can't get her mic or camera to work. Oh, yeah, the shaking practice. I can mention the shaking practice. Yeah. So this is all about letting out trauma through the body. And I think for years, a lot of us have gone to talk therapy, and people will ask us, well, how do you feel about that? Tell me about that. And then sometimes you find a therapist that's going to give you some hard news or reply, like, well, what the F did you do that for? Or what were you thinking? And then sometimes you find somebody that can help, so it can let that stuff out, that you don't have to think it all up and come up for it on your own. But then when you are releasing these things, you have stress stored in your body. So whether it's trauma that happened to our, 7 times great grandparent when their village was pillaged, right? Oh, village pillaged, that rhymes. And or it could be about something that happened to you as a child. It could be about being in a car accident. It could be about not being able to, somebody saying something at the Thanksgiving dinner table. It's still trauma. Yes, learning curves, Annie Bear. So, so when we store these, we store them in our psoas, a lot of it, right? It'll be stored in the psoas. And the psoas is a muscle that connects, it wraps around your body, and it connects your top half of your body to your bottom half of the body. And it's a lot of where our fight or flight is stored. There's cortisone there that we, inflammation that we store. And that inflammation, oh, yay, she's here. Let me invite her back on. Shaking removes that. Good morning, beautiful.
Oh, thank you all for your patience. Do you know, I tried everything and it turned out to be this little red X on the camera within the program of stream, whatever it is, went allow in the future. And I went, oh, at last. So sorry.
Oh, bless you. I'm
Know
so
enough
glad you
about
got here.
technology.
I
I
was
tried everything else.
I was laughing about that and saying, well, if there's one person that would get stuck and not worry about it, it would be a stress and trauma therapist.
Yeah. Well, this is it. It's really cool over the years of working online with new people who have problems with technology.
Yeah.
And I'm going, it's okay. Don't worry about it. It'll all be an emotional reason that you've put out into the universe that you're not quite ready. And I'm going to work with it. So I'm thinking I mustn't have been quite ready this morning.
Yeah.
And going, it'll find. And I've been very emotional. It's a new moon and I have been very emotional. And so it does not surprise me that I just needed maybe that little bit longer to calm down. So thank you all very much. And
No
here,
worries. No worries at all. There is something going on too energetically, and we've got a couple of astrologers here today, but that just glitches with every
yeah,
little thing.
yeah,
And the planets, and it's like the timeline is just
yeah.
everything was late last week or changed.
There
Yeah.
you go. There you go. And I call it a perverse comfort when we discover that it's not us.
Yeah.
It's going on for everybody. It's kind of like, oh, I'm sorry, but yay.
I want to write that down and frame it perverse comfort because I want to get t-shirts made.
This is it. It's like, I'm really sorry that you're also having a hard time, but I'm glad that it's not just me, because then we can kind of share the So I'm glad you like that. I did. I
I
went, oh, it's so comforting. Oh, but that's a bit mean.
I do. I dearly love it. And let me put this on Mercury station retro on the 13th, so it's kicking into gear already.
There
Diana
you
says.
go.
Diana's
Stunning.
our resident master astrologer.
Oh, how
Um,
fabulous.
I didn't welcome you properly. This is Shara Mullan, and she is a stress and trauma therapist. You do shaking, you tell it like it is, and she lets it all hang out there. So,
Thank you.
yeah, amazing therapist, amazing therapist.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. And so today we wanted to talk about forgiveness, but since you're here already, I just had somebody, I can't remember if it was Teresa or who, but was talking about, asking me about, can I explain the shaking process? So maybe we
Oh,
can
yeah,
start
for
with
sure.
that.
And forgive me
Yeah,
because I
Sharon.
wasn't quite ready, that I'm still fiddle farting around here to try and get myself quite steady. So, but this is all part of working in any way with me or being around me, is that I kind of adjust in real time. I don't wait till I'm perfect and then
Yeah.
and then arrive in the studio in life. The shaking is a very natural process that I often ask people before I even start to introduce them to it, in case they've already experienced it. So if any of you are listening today, and Sharon yourself, if you've been cold, too hot, gotten a fright, and notice that your body is shaking, by itself. That's what it is. Okay. So it's all very, very normal and natural. And all indigenous cultures would still know that after there's been a disconnect, they would call it a disconnect from the self, from the tribe, that the reconnection happens through this movement. So to explain further, there's a cycle of motion that the body naturally goes through when it's gotten a fright. We're at the moment, Terry, you and I, don't know about anybody else, can't see them, but you and I are socially engaged. We are in a position where we can move if we choose to, or not move if we choose to. Once
Yeah.
we go into fight and flight after there's been a shock or a fright, we're now involuntarily moving. We didn't decide to move. And that could be just that internally our heart is beating faster, our breathing has become shallow, and the blood is starting to move, the energy starting to move to the arms and the legs so that we can fight or flee. And it happens automatically. Then if the threat is deemed too big and now we're in too much danger to fight or flee, whatever it is, could even be a car accident, then the system goes into freeze. Again, now we're in involuntary immobility. We're not choosing to not move, but we've no choice. We're now shutting down. And that can be just sometimes, you just couldn't speak, to your whole body going into a full catatonic collapse. So that's half the cycle. And then the shaking, as I use it, and is used either naturally if it hasn't been socialized out of you, or in ceremony, is to allow that fight and flight energy to be removed from the system, to be used up. So that's what the shaking is about, so that your body gets to use up its fight and flight energy, and until it's settled, the system again, it's been used up, and then you come back into socially engaged. So that's the full cycle. Socially engaged, fight and flight, freeze, use up the fight and flight through involuntary shaking, back down to socially engaged. So as I say, it's just natural. What I teach people is how to manage it and use it, but it's very, very natural. And if it's not socialized out of you, you naturally will allow yourself to shake after you've gone into freeze and go, oh, okay, again. It's not necessarily pleasant either, by the way. People go, can be, but I've had a situation where we had a very violent and threatening man in a workplace, and I was well able to remove him, but it took me 2 hours to calm down. Involuntary movement in my body, 2 hours. And I was nauseated through that and a bit yucky, but I knew I was coming out of it. I wasn't going into a problem. And that's the real ticket to this, that if we look around and notice that we're not actually in danger anymore, or at all, because we've just thought something that set us off. If we're involuntarily moving, it means we're coming down, we're coming back into socially engaged, not going on up into fight and flight or freeze. So hopefully that wasn't too long-winded, but hopefully that helps explain.
No, it's excellent. And I feel like a lot of this is what sets off a disease, right? Dis-ease.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And the thing is, because that automatic reaction to a major danger is to freeze, that we often then start to do it, continue rather to do it when it hasn't been, we haven't been given the tool to come down from going up. If we haven't, then when big emotions happen, people will say, oh no, I shut them down. And so, can you imagine, your body then is full of energy trying to get out. So it's going to come out in forms of all sorts of tumors and illnesses and autoimmune diseases and everything, trying to get out. And here people going, I wish my disease would go away. I wish my PTSD would go away. It's trying. We're holding on.
Yeah, we totally store trauma. You're right, Leah. Totally.
But it's not a judgment when I say that. It's just a lack of skill. So I'm not, lots of compassion for people who are trying and they don't realize that actually it just wants out. So I'm not judging. I'm just more meaning it's, we don't know. So therefore we do what we know.
Yeah. Yeah. We do what society tells us to do, what you were raised to do too, right? So
well, if you don't know any different, you do what you're taught. That's exactly right. Why would you suddenly, it won't come to you from the ethers, unless, of course, you're a very spiritual person and you do start to go, I think something's wrong here.
Yeah. Yeah. I even get it now when I meditate sometimes, like an arm will just go like that voluntarily.
Same. My face goes and I'm leaning over and I'm doing all sorts of, it's so cool.
Oh, yeah, rocking all the time,
That's
during
it.
meditation all the time, yeah.
Because your body, Terry, has started to associate it with, once I'm relaxing, the coming down, the cooling the
Mhm.
system, the calming the system, it starts to rearrange itself. And that's pretty much what the shaking is, because sometimes it's a stretch, it's a shake, it comes in all sorts of forms. And it's the body rearranging itself, reorganizing itself back down into homeostasis. That's its primary job. We attach all sorts of fancy labels.
Sorry about that.
You're right. But it's basically the body reorganizing itself down into homeostasis.
Yeah.
It was very
Observe,
physical,
not
you know,
absorb.
was in us when we were animals, and now that we've got the prefrontal cortex, we're very fancy, and we like to have names like trauma and all that kind of stuff. But it's just the body going, "I'm out of whack," and now I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really nice. And now I find myself in the mornings, a lot of times before I get out of bed, I'll just sit there and shake and let it out and get ready for a good day. But
And you'll segue into the forgiveness, but I just want to say that that's how we forgive. It's not, saying I want to forgive somebody and saying the words, and even sometimes, yes, of course, there has to be a decision made to forgive someone, but how you forgive them is to remove the hurt, the effect
yeah.
of the event. And then, so what have we got? I still wake up.
Oh, when I up if I
Yeah.
hear footsteps that aren't my hubby's, even if it are outside in the walkway. Yeah. Right,
Yeah.
Teresa?
Right,
Sorry,
Teresa,
I was
teach you,
trying to ignore that.
teach you how to tremor, honey, and then that won't happen anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, we should go through that. But first I wanted to start with forgiveness
Yeah.
today because I think that's such a big one. And gosh, I feel like everything gets triggered right now with the holidays. And for some reason, there's been a lot of transitions, a lot of people leaving the planet right now. And so, can we talk about that today and how we
Yeah.
forgive others that have done harm to us or abuse, whether that was abuse or, said something at the dinner table?
Oh, yeah, yeah, totally. Exactly. Yeah, yeah. And so the first thing to say, just in regards to what you've just said there, which is something Gabor Mate bangs on about all the time, and I love him for it, is it's not what happened, it's the effect on you.
Yeah.
Okay. So it can if you're a small person, and little things will have a big effect because you're little, and as well as the fact that you've previous lifetimes or whatever, but a small body will register something more than a bigger body. But if in a small body we've had lots of trauma, being neglected, which is the biggest problem, but also abused later on in life, some tiny thing said at the dinner table will set you off, right? Whereas if you had a fairly easy life and all was well and your system is not all gnarly, and then something is said at the dinner table, it can be water off a duck's back. Okay. So it can be, what's the effect on you is what we're dealing with here, not what happened. Okay. So it's very, very important for people to be aware. Oh, but isn't that a big deal? Why wouldn't you be so affected? Well, for whatever reason, you're not. And that for whatever reason can be that you don't have a backlog. You're not paying excess luggage in every day. You're actually able to be present. So having said that, then to me, forgiveness is, first of all, a decision. We have to make the decision that we want to forgive. And then why is it worthwhile to forgive? Because the only person who's suffering is yourself. The other person does not get affected if you die from lack of forgiveness and misery and full of tumors. The best revenge is happiness. So at the end of the day, we need to realize that the worthwhileness of forgiveness is because the person who needs to forgive gains. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That it's
So,
not absolution, like, or, when you absolve somebody.
oh, totally. It's purely for the self. Bingo. Thank you. Because
Yeah.
that's the next step. This is what I love about working with you. We're like one step ahead of each other slightly all the time, which keeps it's beautiful. Yeah, because we're not talking about forgetting here. We're only talking about forgiving. As soon as somebody, I think it was, what's that beautiful American black woman?
Oh,
Angelo, I think was her,
oh,
Maya
again,
Angelou.
Maya. Hmm.
And she said, if somebody tells you something about themselves, believe them. And I love that. It's so true. Like if somebody does something, they lie, they steal, they have an affair with your husband, whatever it is, they make a nasty remark, they arrive late, new information, just see it as that, new information. Now you don't forget that information. That just person just gave you information about themselves,
Yeah.
right? Now, if that information then hurts you, that event, that action hurts you, then fine, then you work on the forgiveness for you, right? But you don't forget that that person just gave you that piece of information about themselves. More fool us if we go, oh, I've forgiven them, bang. Oh, I've forgiven them, bang. You know, really?
Right.
But they told you. They told you they like to hit you in the face. Seriously, get your face out of their hand, Rit, you know?
Yeah.
Right? Forgive them and not grow a tumor, but don't go be given anywhere near them again. Okay.
Yeah.
So but the ability, this is why they're so linked, to stay out of somebody's space, to remember what they've told you. We need to remove the damage of the last hit, because remember what happens. We go into fight and flight, and if it's too big, we go into freeze. So we can be in a situation with somebody that can be just that they make nasty remarks at the dinner table, or they're hitting us, and we find we cannot get out of their airspace. Why? Because we're in freeze. So until we come back out and remove the fight and flight energy, but then back in voluntary movement, I can move, I can stay, I can leave. Then we can go, no, you've hit me, I'm leaving, I'm never coming back. I can get myself out of that situation. So to me, that coming down through the choice to remove the fight and flight energy is the forgiveness. Is actually going, I'm going to remove the hurt out of me from that reaction to that event. Then I'm back and socially engaged with my mind now able to make good decisions, my body able to back up those decisions, and then I can leave or stay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that make sense? That's I make it very physiological here. This is not, it's a very spiritual practice to decide to forgive someone, to decide what's best for you and the other person. But physiologically, forgiveness to me is that it's the removal of the effect of the event so that you can decide what you want to do next.
Yeah. And it is kind of hard, isn't it? Teresa, are you still here? Are you okay, dear? There's one of our friends here. Teresa had to go. Yeah. Okay, honey. Yeah, let me know if we triggered anything, dear, because we can work through that. Okay. So I feel like we can still call them every name in the book. We can still write them dirty letters. We can still press charges.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, there's so many things at our disposal to, but the judgment part, because often it's about forgiving ourselves, isn't it?
Well, it can be about forgiving the self, yes, absolutely, because I think that if we do not realize that, like if I work with a woman who's been sexually assaulted, not always, thank goodness, but some of the time there's a blame. Why didn't I fight? Why didn't I go at the first, why didn't I get away? Blah, blah, blah. And I have to educate them. But your body went into a involuntary, automatic reaction, which was to freeze, to save your life.
Yeah.
Then we have to forgive ourselves to go, oh, okay. So in as I say, bringing the body back online, bringing it through the fight and flight, and it comes back to life. You're going, now I'm realizing when I feel the difference between being socially engaged and being able to move or not move. And then when I go into fight and flight and I feel my heart going and the sweats and all the things that happen. And then when I feel the collapse, now I can tell the difference between them all. Now I do remember that's what I went through when I had this awful event. Right. Oh, it wasn't my fault. That happened automatically. Okay. And then if somebody is very, so they remember in the fight and flight, they use cruel names too. that they hit as well. They have to forgive themselves for not noticing when they were going into fight and flight, and they allowed it to take over their behavior. Okay, so there's no, and I'm not talking about even giving absolution for ourselves. We need to make up for what we did. So once you've kind of forgiven the self, then yes, if you have been awful, you don't just forget that you did it either. You need to go and make up for it. Okay. But it is to get ourselves physiologically able again to decide whether we press charges, and we do it without emotion. We're just going, if that person did it to me, they might do it to someone else. Or I feel that actually I do want some justice to be served. Not everybody does. Lots of people who discover in adult life that they were sexually abused as children don't always want to put their attackers away. Okay, so it all depends on you. But when you've come back into socially engaged, you can then decide what's best. What would make me feel the most at peace? By pressing charges, by writing that letter and sending it, or just burning it. But it's not a great idea to make decisions, or possible to make decisions, when you're still in fight and flight, or you're still in freeze, because your body's going, and your mind's full of doubt.
Yeah.
So you got to calm them down and then decide. But I think it's really, we live in a time where enabling is very much where the pendulum has swung. We've gone from probably serious, hard parenting to, now namby-pamby parenting, where, it's all very, I just want to be friends with them and I just love them. And, I heard once of a friend of a family who said, oh yeah, my mate, not that they're terribly good friends, but he knows them, said, oh yeah, my son and daughter, they ring me when they're high, and they just want to share this drugged experience with me. How old are these kids? Oh, 16. You what now? You get in your car, you go get that kid and you get them home and you stay with them till they're sober when they're safe. You what now? Seriously? Oh, I just want to be friends with my kids. No.
Yeah.
So, it's this. So we've got to watch out what enabling is. We got to watch out what's that all about. And to me, enabling is when you're right. Often it hasn't been, you haven't forgiven yourself. You haven't reconciled yourself, completed the cycle in yourself. Because when you have, you're better able to make the decisions towards somebody's poor behavior as to what, because you're noticing again how it's affected you. And that's all it has to be, Terry, is that if somebody says something or does something, that boundary being broken only has to be that you don't like it.
Oh,
that's all it has to be. A boundary only has to be when you say, no, thanks.
Right. Yeah. Kimberly says, holding anger separates us from loving ourselves and connecting to new people. It's taken a long time to learn this. No more migraines.
Oh, well done. The migraines are hideous, Kimberly. I'm so great. I hear you. There are. But, and it's lovely that you've shared that, because the thing is, forgiveness too, can take time. We can stay in the anger for a while, and discover, even when you start to sit with it, just how much there is. You're like, no way, will it ever end? And there's another thing. And then they did this. And blah, blah, blah. Because anger can feel a little bit yummy sometimes too. Like, oh, it feels good to be shitty. Fuck them.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah, it can. And it's, and it feeds on itself. It's, and I see that sometimes, like I see it in chat. If I go on certain channels and there's something political going on, and people are like, yeah, they're this, they're that. And they really are this or that, but it feeds on itself, and it does create toxins, doesn't it?
It does. And in a way, just going with what Kimberly said there, it can connect us superficially to other people who are also angry. Oh, yeah. You too, me too. Oh yeah, that bastard, blah, 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 blah. Oh, yeah. She did this, she did it to me too. And then I think we talked about this in the last chat. Then we're all in this empathy pit, where nobody's willing to leave. It's just like, yeah, we're connected by our anger and our, and our poor us. But, then it's how wonderful that Kimberly has learned this, because then she got on a ladder out of the pit and went, actually, I'm going to find some forgiveness for myself and some compassion for myself and do something here and not just stay in the toxic soup, and actually get herself up out of it. And look, no more migraines. Because it's one thing to be in the migraine club. Oh, you too, me too. What drugs do you take? Blah, blah. What has set it off this time? And that's kind of a nice connection for a while. But when you don't have any migraines anymore, you go, this is so much better.
It is, isn't
You
it?
know, you're
Yeah.
talking to people about creating things and loving things and having a bigger life, you know? So yes, so it's a truer connection
It
when you're
totally is.
migraine
Yeah.
free.
Yeah. And when you're coming from something that's positive and creative and fun,
Building
joy and
something.
wonder. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Because you're right, and that feeds on itself too. Because you're like, oh, I'm inspired. I want to do that too, and you know,
Yeah.
to because I think in the world that we live in now, it is there's a lot of, yes, the empathy pit of sitting there going, you know, let's be all poor me together, and the whole woke culture. And then there's also a lot of false, oh my God, look what I did, blah blah blah. But genuine excitement, genuine creativity and love. Like, I really love to meditate. I really love my spirituality. I really love connecting with other people. I love listening to them. I love holding them. That's still a bit woo-woo and a bit weird. And it's a shame, instead of that being like, wow, that's where the real courage is, the real connection, the bigness of feeling, you know? Because anger is a small feeling in comparison to love, even as big as it can feel at times. Like, rage can feel massive, but truly loving someone is much bigger than that rage. And I think that that's the feeling a lot of people are putting off. Their, you know, that their heart might actually split open, whereas you know, like, whereas the rage might give you a heart attack and actually kill you, whereas really loving somebody will just expand your heart till you kind of feel a little bit discombobulated or massively discombobulated. But that's where really living happens, you know.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Bliss. Definitely bliss.
Yeah, and it's blissful when you get used to it, but when you're adjusting to bliss, it's like, whoa, light speed, what's going on?
It makes you a little dizzy, doesn't it?
Yeah, shocking. You're very dizzy. You sound like you're well able for it. I'm impressed.
Well, I'll tell you what, we just went over to see a friend, and Ingrid went with me, and we're over there, and he's a he's a shaman, and his house is filled with altars everywhere, beautiful paintings, beautiful chests, crystals everywhere.
Yeah, wow.
And it's just like, whoa, you just start buzzing when you get in there. But it's filled with love too.
Yeah.
So letting go of judgment, that's a hard one.
Oh, look, it really is, because it's a fine line, you know. It's that fine line of what's not okay with you and what's not okay, and what does judgment even mean? You know, if we look at what's the definition, is it I'm better than you,
Yeah.
or you're a bad person now and I'm a good person? You know, is it about a comparing? You know, it's not about judging, you know, best dressed at the fair. You know, it is. And look, seriously, it's so tantalizing to judge another person, you know. If I was Elon Musk, I'd just, you know, save the world's hunger problem. He's a
Yeah.
bad man, you
Yeah.
know. Guilty as charged. Put me in a glass house, you
Yeah.
know. I am a
Yeah.
shocker. But it is, I think what is at least wonderful is to spot it and have people around us who are willing to also help us spot it. You know, hey,
Yeah.
you know, what's the payoff for judging people? Where it's like a drug, you know. Um, uh, but again, you know, because the other thing you talked about maybe dealing with today is, you know, finding your voice. So we got to be watching what we're saying. So it would be okay for me to say, you know, honestly, if I had Elon Musk's money, well, I'd never get to that stage because I wouldn't wait that long. But, you know, to have money to be able to be generous, I'd love to be in a position to be able to do that. It's a shame he's not doing it. That's very different from, okay. So,
Mhm.
you know, just watching our tone, watching the drug we might be getting off on, in the judgment, that it's actually not about the other person. It's just there a wonderful opportunity for us to falsely pump up our ego. and go, I'm better than you, you
Yeah.
know? But then
Yeah.
on the other hand, when it comes to poor behavior that might look like judgment, but if you're going, no, the way that the effect on me from that behavior, I'm 100% okay that I do not want to be around that behavior.
Right. Recognizing it, witnessing it. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually going, no, it might seem very strange to make a big decision to walk away from a family member, to walk away from a job that you always wanted to do, to walk away from a country that you've always loved, all this. But when you notice the feeling in your body and you just go, I can't do it anymore. Actually, I'm going to have to give this up. I'm going to walk away because, you know, and even to say, oh, but the other person didn't mean it, or they can't help it. It's cultural. It's an age. It's a culture. But at the end of the day, we have to live with ourselves and go, but it's not okay by me. That's all.
Right.
And then it gives us the opportunity then to be able to walk away and go, I'm not judging that environment, each to their own, but I can't be in it because I've noticed the effect it has on me. And then I'm not judging the other person, the behavior or whatever. You're actually just going, I can't do it because another person could. So it's not about the environment.
Yeah.
It's actually going, it's not my environment because I'm noticing that I'm so distressed in it. And so there again, just noticing the difference between what's really going on and what bullshit you might be telling yourself.
Yeah.
But it's really okay, Terry, around the right company and good friends that you go into judgment first. I think if we still have to be, we weren't fully allowed to be children when we were children, that around the right company, we start off that journey by going, them and they did this and then and start, get it out of your system, go for it. And then start changing your language to, look, I am upset and it did break my heart and I wish it'd been different and, I'm going to miss them and then work towards the truth. But it's okay to start wherever you're at, which might be rageful or incredibly depressed. But you just allow yourself to start there in the right company with a good friend who loves you and work towards and be let work towards the truth.
Yeah. And it's good to have a name for that or something, right? Like, hey, I'm gonna tell you this story,
Yes.
and I just need to get rid of it and vomit it out of my body. Is that okay with you? And then let it go and say, so what do you think about that? What did you get from that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is lovely when you're in the company of somebody who goes, do you know, I have to say that, I probably would have the same reaction. That is full on messed up, whatever. And you go, thank you. Right.
Yes.
Or the person goes, can I just remind you that you kind of did that to me last year? Oh God, that's why it's bothered me because I'm a bit that way too. Yep. Like in the right company, we need to have that truth teller, which might go, yep, no, that's understandable. You're making sense to me. Or, I think I think you're triggered because you're that way too.
Yeah.
Ah,
Wow. Straight
I
talk.
mean, it's a huge thing, but
It is. It
and
is.
it is, and it's something that I very much am able to do as a practitioner. To go, don't tell me you're annoyed with them. Don't tell me you're angry with them because you're not. You're upset with yourself. Oh, but no, but you bullshit yourself for a little bit longer. Take as long as you need. But this isn't about them. This is about you, and that's fine, And eventually and the real interesting thing is that when you realize that actually you're the one who has the issue, there's the freedom, Terry, because now you can do something about it. Whereas if they have all the power and they're the one behaving and they're in control of you and they're abusing you or they're neglecting you, you have to wait for them to evolve. You might be waiting many lifetimes. So, there's going to be no outcome there. There's no results. Whereas if we can take the responsibility onto us, we are now free to do something about it.
Right. Right. It's I think my mom used to say you always, dislike most in others what you dislike most in yourself.
Oh, that's
And
right. I think I might have quoted Dr. Phil's father, not a necessarily huge Dr. Phil fan. I was in the early days, but then just got too commercial. And, after he said too many times, and I'll tell you what I think when we come back from the break. It's like,
right.
no, I can't do it anymore. But his father used to say, there's something about that feller I don't like in myself. And I love
Oh,
that line. I love that line,
I do too. I don't remember that. I couldn't stomach him for some reason, and that's a judgment.
There we go. But no, but you know what? It is a judgment, but also too, if we can actually put it back to, I used to, an Irish expression is, I just don't warm to him. And it's
Oh, I
lovely.
just don't
It all
want
takes it on you. I just don't warm to him. It takes it back onto you, which I kind of like,
I'm
which
writing
is,
that down.
and yeah, and it wasn't so much even that I hear you. It was more, it became, that a show rather than it being about an interaction between two people. That's where I
Yeah.
started to like it. It was all kind of sensationalized. But and once it is, then the people can't tell the truth anymore, because not truth isn't always good television.
No, it's not.
Whereas the
It's
drama
not.
is and the whole so it is full on. But yeah, this is it. I remember my younger daughter saying to me, once, I think you love our older sister more than me. And because I wasn't into favorites, I went, yeah, of course I do, because you're a pain in the arse. And she wasn't happy at all. And then when she said it again, I thought, oh, she means it. Because I was just checking that she wasn't doing the whole, I want you to pick me as the favorite, because I'm not picking any favorites. I only have two.
Mhm.
So, and I went, oh, you really are bothered by this. And she went, yeah, I am. I really feel it. And I said, all right, let me think about it and let me come back to you. So I had to think about it. And then I said to her, well, however long it took me, maybe a week, a couple of days, I don't remember. But I was able to say to her, what I have not liked in myself to date, when it comes to your older sister, why I don't get upset with her is that the parts of me that she, in a way that she behaves, that were in me, I have reconciled. So I don't get triggered by her. Whereas with you, the parts of me that I have not reconciled in myself that I don't like, you have, and I still have. So I'm fired. I'm fired off you. But I said, believe me, in those moments when I'm firing, I have to find love for you from my toenails, because I want to fucking murder you. Like, that's how bad it is for me. So I pull out all the love I can into those moments to get through them. So she goes, so you might love me more than her then? And I said, well, in those moments, yes, because I have to find so much love for you and go, this is about her, not about me. But it's so overwhelming. And which we did. And I got there and I reconciled them, and then we got on beautifully. But I had to make her understand what was happening is when she behaved a certain way, I was also going into the same behavior. Bang. Right. You
Yeah.
know? And
Yeah.
so this is the thing we need to, because to be fair, even if I came up against somebody who was incredibly racist, xenophobic, whatever, of course I'm going to have a reaction to them. Not because in any way I'm racist or xenophobic, just because the energy coming off them would be a heat and a hate, and I would have to process it. So we've got to be mindful that if we're not, unless we're completely enlightened, to be affected by somebody's hate is okay. Doesn't mean
Yeah.
that we have the hate in us. It's just, oh God, that's a lot to process.
It is.
If somebody was sitting next to me and didn't agree with me about something, that I had reconciled in me, he'd be like, oh, do you think that way? Okay, that's really cool. Right.
Yeah.
Let me find out more about that, because we're in such differing positions. Maybe we have some link that we can find, but I can only do that if I'm not triggered.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and if somebody has a bit of Adolf Eichmann in him, do you know who Adolf Eichmann was?
No.
So Adolf Eichmann was an SS officer, senior officer in Hitler's Reich, and he believed so wholeheartedly that Jews were better off dead than alive, and they've made a movie about him, that he convinced senior Jews to organize, and the people underneath within the community of these senior Jews to organize themselves to Auschwitz, because he was so able to convince them because he had no doubt. So we have to be careful who we're around. It's an awful, awful thing to realize that you can start to feel utterly, utterly horrible about yourself because you've been with somebody who actually thinks that you're horrible and need to die. That we then start to believe that too. We are
Yeah.
a product of who we're around. Very, very important to not stupidly go into the world and put ourselves in situations and just go, I want to forgive everyone, forgive everyone. Love and light, people. Love and light. Forgive me for going into an American accent for doing that, but it's a thing. It's a thing worldwide that we all do. And so, and it's not. Stay the hell away from those people. Because
Yeah.
don't fool ourselves that we are so full of love and light that we can put that heat out. No, stay the hell away from it. So finding your voice, moving your body is discerning. And who do I think I am? Where's the arrogance that I think I can change their mind? No, just get the hell away from them.
Yeah. Just run.
Just run. Keep on running. Unless they're trying to keep you there and you just slowly sneak out the door, whatever you need to do, and then run. But
An Irish goodbye.
Yeah, that's very good. I love it. That's gorgeous. Oh, that's gorgeous. But whether they're blood related or they're, a world leader, their world leader, don't be going on social media. Don't be listening to the news. If they're a family member, block them. Stay the hell away from that kind of stuff, because we have got to protect this heart of ours for ourselves and for those who really need us.
Yeah. Well, I feel like the more that we kind of abide in our heart space and our solar plexus and feel, okay, what am I feeling today? What is this? Is it because there's something that I'm owning, or is it because something that they are definitely putting out there? And yeah, a friend of mine went to a party a while back and she got the heebie-jeebies while she was there. And she'd smoked a little something before she went, which is legal in my state. And she thought, well, maybe I was just paranoid or something. And then she realized, I guess they have orgies there at that party. She found out when she left. She said, her friend said, well, we have to get out of here early because they do some stuff at the end of the night. She goes, oh, no wonder.
Yeah, exactly. And that is that gift, that intuition.
Yeah.
We all have it. But when you're traumatized, when you're frozen, and you've got a lot of fight and flight energy in you, we doubt it. Is it true? Is it me? I do have a history. Maybe I'm just paranoid because I've had a chuff, or maybe, I'm triggered all the time. But, it's wonderful to listen to that, because your body doesn't know how to lie. It just gives you information, and it can protect you. So that when we do go to maybe ring that loved one or go on the news or whatever, and we get that sensation in our body, take care of that first. That's my rule. Take care of that first before you go, and don't push through, because pushing through is what got us into the situation of being traumatized. We had no choice. We had to push through. But as soon as you can, and once you're okay again, is to take care and live in that awareness that your body is guiding you. Now, when I say that it doesn't lie to you, when it comes to addictions, that's when you only listen to the body. That's it. People who are addicted only listen to their body, right? People who are, can end up very ill, they only listen to their mind. So they've only got thinking. But if you have the two converse with one another, then how fantastic. That's when you can go, hey, I've got a funny feeling in my tummy. Now, is that nerves or am I hungry? We've just eaten. Oh, no, it is. It's a bit of nerves. Okay, that's worth listening to. What's going on? Oh, right. Yeah, I've just heard that information about the party or whatever. But if it is that you go, oh, funny feeling in my tummy. Oh, well, it is. It's 4:00 and I haven't eaten since midday. Right. I need to eat. So it's always worth having that conversation with and anybody who's been a mom, when you have your baby cries and you go through the list, well, they've woken up, so they're not sleepy. So, check their nappy, not a dirty nappy. Oh, they're hungry. You go through the thing until you get so good at it, and you start to be intuitive, or you can be intuitive from the beginning, whatever. But, we go through that checklist with babies or with children. What do they need? But whereas adults suddenly forget to use logic, which is maybe I'm just hungry or thirsty, or maybe it is get the hell away from the party.
Yeah. So, what happens when we can't forgive?
We die.
It does. It comes in different parts of our body, doesn't it? If we're filled with hate, or we're filled with fear, or we're filled with self doubt, you
And we
throw.
are, yeah. And because we're filled with it, or, some large amount, it means that we're limited in how we live ultimately. Like it's not a joke to say we die. We slowly die. We don't do this anymore. We don't do that anymore. We're losing friends because we're bitchy and horrible and nasty. And, so our life just gets smaller and smaller and smaller, it really does. But people have, and to remember something that helps me is that there is people who have forgiven, and I more turn to people like on death row, and in the United States. You don't have it here in Australia, thank goodness, or in Ireland or the UK where I lived. So, or New Zealand. But so I know of, and I've read books about people innocent often on
Mhm.
death row in the
Oh,
United
sure.
States,
Yeah.
and they manage to die well. They manage to forgive, and they have no life. They're incarcerated. And so I think if they can do it, I can do it. So I'm reminded that people can forgive big time. So when people go, I can't forgive, I go, no, you're choosing to not forgive because you could. And it's okay if you've chosen not to, and that you're going to take it to your grave. That is entirely up to you. That is your choice. But you don't fool yourself into that. You can't. You can. Everything is a decision, Terry. Everything is a decision. Because, and I truly believe everything starts with the decision. So if somebody was to say, listening to this, or anybody who talks about forgiveness, where do I start? You start by saying the words, okay, I want to forgive this, even if I've got no idea how, because now you've made the decision and you know how magical the world is. You start making decisions, and then out comes the books, the people, the care, the everything, the therapist to the podcast to the whatever, and you're like, whoa, here's the how. But we don't start with the how, we start with the decision.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes for me, it's so helpful. And whether this is something small or something big, just to say, okay, I'm going to look at that in 24 hours, and I'm going to visit it then. And because right now I'm a little frantic, and then I'm really going to decide about that. And then if I need another 24 hours, I'll look at it again, another 24 hours, but kind of put it in that not holding pattern, but compost bin. And you're like just letting it settle for a minute until you kind of really look at it well.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic because you can't rush it, because otherwise you're faking it. When kids are little, we make them apologize. Go and apologize.
Yeah.
And what I used to say to my kids was, "Are you ready to apologize?" And they'd go, "No." Okay. Are
Hey,
you ready?
we've been talking away here. Do you have an appointment?
No, I'm good. I don't work today. So you
Okay.
you tell me, because I just, because we're not an hour because I was late on. So I was
Oh,
keeping an eye on that. So if you're
all
happy
right.
to go a little bit
Oh,
longer,
no,
I
no,
will.
no, no, no. We'll keep chatting with you as long as we've got you here.
Oh, you're too gorgeous. Too gorgeous. But it's interesting what you said, because I'm glad you want to go a little bit longer, because I just wanted to talk about that idea of sitting on it, which you said for 24 hours. I think that's a lovely thing amongst couples. Couples meaning not necessarily romantic couples, but any couple, parent, child, work colleagues, whatever, a couple of people who have had a fallout,
Yeah.
is for the honesty of when something's been said or done or whatever, for the for the person who is struggling, who's had a reaction now in their body or even in their thinking that's like blah blah, to go, I need to walk away and sit with this, but to give the other person a time frame. I'll be back to you in an hour. I'll be back to you in 24
Mm.
hours. So the other person's not left going, when are you ever going to come back? When are you ever going to come back? That you actually know. Because you know the phrase, to sleep on it.
Yeah.
Sometimes we can, when I was married to my children's father, um, I don't know why, in all fairness, why I find forgiveness so easy. Usually, every now and again, I get one that I go, no, this ain't going anywhere. I wake up the next morning. We had a blazer the night before, and I'm sure many people will hear this and go, "Yeah, I'm like that too." And I wake up the next morning and roll over and put my hand on him, and he'd pull away, and I'd be like, "What the? Oh, we had a row last night. Yeah, I forgot." Right? It's just because I slept on, it was gone. It was gone through. I'm not to hold on to it, but I think that's a very good idea to just realize, if you can keep remembering that you're full. You've talked about this. You're full of anger. You're full of hate. You're full of hurt. That it can take a while for that to come away. You can't
Yeah.
just say, "I forgive them," and then you're in their company and you blow again. Turns out you haven't. You actually have to let your system reset itself back to that physical place has been settled. You know the information about them, so there's information. Because often people will say to me when they've worked on a memory, like my childhood feels like it happened in a previous life now. I think about my parents, I think about my brother and my sister, and I think about all that happened, which was fairly horrific.
Yeah.
I get nothing. I get nothing. I feel, and then because I get nothing, it actually doesn't feel like it's attached to me anymore, and it feels like it was somebody else's life maybe that I'm talking about, or it happened in a previous lifetime.
It's not your story.
It's not in my story. So it means, though, that in all fairness, though, which I'm going to plan to go to Ireland next year, that when I'm in my parents' company, they'll be under no illusion, Terry, that I'm aware of what they're capable of.
Yeah.
So I'm not going in there going, it'll be fine. Bang. Okay. I'm
Bye
still
now.
going to stay out of arm's length of my mother in case she hits me again. I'm going to do that. I'm not stupid. And if I'm hugging her, I'll be like, "Ooh, don't stay too long." Like I'm not, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to be foolish about it because I know the story. I know that it's possible that it can happen, but I'm not going in with the, I'm going in like, yeah, okay. I'm not on alert either. I'm just, keeping an eye on the clock and keeping an eye on my system. And if it starts to get discombobulated, I'll leave and take care of it. Okay. And
Yeah.
if it doesn't, great, I can stay a little bit longer. But I'm not going in with a trigger. I'm going in with the knowing that my system might get upset because the behavior on their part might still be the same.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? That's the thing. So that's the awareness of it. That's what that, and it's freedom. Forgiveness is freedom.
Totally freedom, isn't it? And it's a lot of times about forgiving ourselves, isn't it, from being in that situation.
Well, it is, but I think that also too, that can be a bit of a trap. Like, I do say, the Buddhist in me used to think, oh, well, maybe I was horrible to my parents in a previous life and I deserved it. And I'd go, so hang on, let's work that logic out mathematically. Yeah. So I've been bad to them, they're bad to, and then that settles my karma. But then now they have bad karma because they did it to me. No, that's not right. It's not okay to hit a kid. No, I'm not going to give myself a hard time that I deserve that. I was a kid. Now, when it comes to my marriages, I can go, yeah, you stayed too long. Yeah, okay, you're going to have to forgive yourself for that one.
Right.
Okay, you stayed too long. And I can't just say, oh, well, I was in the freeze pattern and I couldn't because of what happened in my childhood, blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, I'm going to have to forgive myself for going, yeah, look, on me. And also the forgiveness of the self too, that, tell me if this makes sense to you, that when somebody disappoints us, the only reason they disappointed us in our view is because we set an expectation. Nobody disappoints you if you don't set an expectation. So if you want to forgive yourself when the other person disappoints you, it's because you set this. Okay. Now, some expectations make sense in that, well, I wouldn't want someone to be shouting at me. I expect that you wouldn't shout at me. But then that means that we don't, ever expect humans to not be assholes some of the time. Okay. So, and that, but then to go, okay, that's an okay boundary that I don't want someone to shout at me. But it's an unrealistic expectation to not allow for the fact that people can be very poorly behaved sometimes when they're hungry, tired, distressed, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. I think sometimes when we're children, we blame ourselves if someone harms us.
It's the most amazing thing that I discovered some years ago as to why that happens.
Yeah.
So let's look at the two options. So a small child, their parents, their caregivers, whoever they are, mistreat them, ignore
Mhm.
them, hit them, and that child, imagine, has the wherewithal to go, I don't deserve that. Ooh, so you're a little bit evil, and you're a little bit nasty, and you're unsafe. Well, I'm on to you. Don't think that would be what happened, right? So before we go to any further in there, then you go the other option, which is the kid who goes, um, I've done something, I've just gotten hit, ignored. Oh, well, then I'm not worthy of being hit, and or I'm not worthy of being kind to. I'm not worthy. It must be me. I'm a bad kid.
Right.
You think, well, doesn't it look better if the kid goes, I'm all over this. I'm on to you. You're the one who's at fault. No, if you're small and you discover that your caregiver is unsafe, your nervous system is going to shit itself. Whereas if you blame yourself, your nervous system stays somewhat intact.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? This is why we blame ourselves, because the reality to take in that your caregiver is unsafe will absolutely terrify a small child. So it's a very clever evolution that we blame ourselves. But unfortunately, it ought to be temporary, but we take that into our adult life.
Yeah. Coping skills. Yeah.
Yeah. The coping skills are amazing, but unfortunately, they become then ways of being when they're not relevant anymore. Because if
Yeah.
you're not in danger anymore, why are you coping?
Right. The group here is just amazing comments. Kimberly says, I've told a family member I'm feeling triggered. That can silence a room.
I love it.
Yeah,
Totally.
honey. Definitely. Definitely. Tony says, we set us up for suffering. We set expectations, and when we compare ourselves to others.
Oh, the comparisonitis, Tony.
Mm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Magical thinking in that child, right, Sharon? We want
Yeah.
that.
Another Sharon. Yeah, totally. Look, it is. It's, it is. I mean, I used to literally walk around. We also set ourselves up for suffering when we preoccupied with worrying about what others think of us. Oh, yes, Tony.
Yeah,
Gosh.
Tony.
Oh, whole
Yeah.
nother. Totally. But I just want to say that I used to walk behind my mom as a young person in Ireland, Catholic Ireland. Reincarnation was only something Shirley MacLaine mentioned in interviews. I had no idea what reincarnation was, and yet I used to walk around behind my mother going, I'm so sorry for what I did to you in a past life. So something in me knew. Comparisonitis, isn't it great, Julie? It is. It
I
actually
love that.
came from another client that I've had in the States, and I just love it because I love the word to add itis on the end. So somebody says to me, I've worked a really long day, and I'm hungry, and I'll go, you've worked a long day and you are hungry. Itis. It's just a fun thing to add on to the end of thing. But comparisonitis is fantastic because if you see it as a temporary disease that I'm comparing myself to somebody else. And what I love about my job, Julie, is that somebody might walk in and they look amazing. As women, we do often have massive comparisonitis around looks and figures and clothes and status and all that. And I don't suffer from this anymore, but I used to have women come in and they'd tell me they're lawyers, doctors, they look amazing and blah, blah, blah. And then they tell me about their fucked up life and how insecure they are. And I go, oh, I don't have your qualifications or your clothes or your figure, but I think so much more of myself than you do.
Right? Yeah.
And I feel so sad for them that they've got all the outside, but they don't have the inside. So I think comparisonitis is the lie we tell ourselves. We only go off slight little bits of information that we have about the other. So at the end of the day, for that reason alone, comparisonitis is a waste of time because we don't know the other person completely. When you know someone completely, comparisonitis disappears because there's no point anymore. You know that they've got lovely things in their life and they've got terrible things in their life, and actually we're all in the same soup. So it's so to me, comparisonitis is a lack of information. So whenever we're comparing ourselves to others, which I think Tony might have said too, it's just thinking, Tony. It's just thinking. We're not coming down into the feeling and actually going, what's really going on there? Now, I want to say this straight away, which is again a gift that was passed on to me, that when I notice, I wouldn't even ever say anymore that I'm jealous. But when, if you notice, you want to use the word jealousy, when you notice you're comparing, is to notice that feeling. So if, for example, when somebody tells me they've found love, which I want to find, I automatically go into, oh, there's that feeling in my body that's reminding me I want it too. Okay, so if we could remember that jealousy is information that we want something, whereas that word means we don't want the others to have it, really. But it's not true. If we can be kind to ourselves, that when we see somebody who is living a certain way, behaving a certain way, has something, whether it's relationship or stuff, to know, if we notice that feeling that we would call jealousy, if you can be kind to it and say, oh, I must want it too.
Yeah, definitely.
And then it lets them have it and really lets you know, oh, it's true. I really want that love or that thing or whatever. And then, and take care of that feeling. It's a lovely gift if we can turn that comparing around, that jealousy around, and actually remind ourselves, instead of wishing the feeling away, oh, I shouldn't feel like that, I shouldn't feel comparing or jealous, but to actually go, oh, I must really want that. Oh, okay. And be a bit kind to ourselves, because we just increase our chances of getting it, or being okay if we don't, because we're practicing being kind.
If we open up and say, gosh, I think I'm going to take that for me too. I like that. I think I want that. It opens up a friendship, doesn't it? You're like,
Oh, look,
not
it
only
opens
giving a
up.
compliment, you're sharing. So
You are, and one thing leads to another, but it's interesting. If you want to find out the makings of someone, be kind to them. If you are given a compliment and you brush it away, you're automatically telling the other person that you've got low self-esteem.
yeah,
You've just giving them that information straight away. And yet it's socially acceptable for us to be, hard on ourselves. Where if you actually go, thank you, you've opened up a relationship, because oh no, that says no. I'm not going to open that door and meet you in that place where you like whatever you've seen. And then for me to say to you, and by the way, I love that about you. You've closed the door. You've shushed the person away. So I love what you've said there. Yes, you open up when you go, even if you go, oh, I'm so happy for you, me next. And they go, yeah, I know, I was thinking that too. You stay in relationship, where when you go, oh, that's great. And you like clog in your throat because you're going, don't tell them that you really, really are, wish it was you. You shut down the relationship.
yeah.
And so it is. And, even though the room, I think it was Kimberly who said, when she says she's triggered and it shuts down a room,
Mhm.
if you can stay in that silence, I wonder if you've had that experience, Kimberly, if you can stay in that silence, the doors might open up again. The talking might start opening up again, even if it's not straight away, but later on, somebody might go, yeah, me too. Or do you want to talk about that or whatever? But we need to risk shutting a room down sometimes.
I feel like kids now are really open to saying that. Gosh, this triggers me. Or I went to a thing in Denver a while back, and it was like, oh well, I have a lot of anxiety, so I'm glad it's not too crowded. This woman that I just met in front of me, and I'm like, wow, great, yeah, I understand that, and I just thought, oh, that's great. So
It
yeah.
is very true. And I watched, I'm a Young Living distributor, and I went to their last meeting here in Australia, in Adelaide. And every one of those speakers that got up on stage, of all ages, went,
Mhm.
I'm very nervous to be up here, and this is what's happening for me. So forgive me that I'm a bit shaky. Forgive me that I'm, maybe talking too fast, and I just loved the honesty of all the age groups.
Yeah.
Whereas I must admit, one day when I'm up on that stage, which I will be, I'll be like, just to be different. I love being on stage. I might still come across as nervous, because I will be coming down out of the excitement of fight and flight of going on stage. I will be coming down, and I might look shaky and my voice might be shaky, but it'll be just adjusting to being somewhere where I will absolutely love. Okay. So, because it's a comfortable place for me. And it's lovely to watch people become comfortable on stage when they've been honest enough to say they're not, because now they're starting to adjust, because nobody did run at them with a knife or whatever, they're terrified of happening when they're on stage, or they didn't fall apart. But I think that this is the thing. And it is interesting. And I want to say this, the difference between telling the truth and being a victim, right? So when you're
Yeah.
being a victim, and this is no judgment, I'm just talking about a state of being, that when
Yeah.
you're being a victim, as I understand it, is that it is now your friend. It is your thing. I am an anxious person. I have cancer. So you've made it part of you.
It's your
Not
story.
I'm feeling anxious just now, yes, I'm dealing with cancer. You've not kept it separate from you and temporary. You've made it your own. It's your story. It's who you are. Okay.
Yeah.
I have blah, blah, blah. Okay. That then now you don't want to get rid of it because it's your thing. It's your mate. You're leaning on it. It's taken away. You fall over. Okay. And I'm not judging anybody for that. It's like, that's fine. That's your thing. That's where you're at. But it is okay that it's not very easy to be around somebody like that all the time, because you're limited in the conversation because they want to stay in it. Okay. Because when I ask people to acknowledge, not accept yet, but acknowledge what happened when they were children, they say, oh, but I don't want to be a victim. And I go, but no, you want to get rid of it. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I do. Whereas the victim doesn't. So the difference between telling the truth and being a victim is that you want to actually be better. You want whatever happened, the feelings that you have, the story that you're telling yourself, the behavior that's happening because of the event, to be temporary. You want to move through it. You want to be out the other side. And the only way that's going to happen is if you tell the truth. Sorry,
Yeah.
go on.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I had to realize that about myself last year. I have a bad ankle. I was in an accident years ago, and it is hard for me to stand. I can dance all night, but I can't stand. so I know these limitations, but and I was I would tell people about, well, my ankle, I got the bad ankle, and just the words really matter. And I was putting energy out about that ankle. And I can't tell you the difference this year from last year,
Right.
because I'm no longer owning that as part of my story. And yeah, it does hurt sometimes if I stand up all night on it or something, and I'm at a concert or wherever. But I, it's no longer my ankle that's doing it. It's it's the standing. So
that's exactly right. And then the enemy that was this ankle that's against me is now your friend. It's going, standing too long, please sit down. Oh yeah, thank you. And giving you information. That's exactly right. But I think that when it comes to, because you did ask me about talking about finding your voice, saying, you have upset me, you have pissed me off, I'm in a mood because of you hurt me, is not telling the truth. That's your opinion. Telling the truth is, I'm upset now after hearing that. I'm hurt because I'm feeling the hurt of being hit. So there's no you in any of your statements. You're acknowledging that now that, as I have asked people, if you are hit in the face, who's responsible for the pain in your face? And, it's interesting when people go, oh, well, you are, because the pain's in your face. Yay. When people go, they are, because they hit you. No, the pain's in your face. Of course, it's your responsibility, but people do, but they hit you. It's their responsibility. What can the other person do about the pain in your face now that it's in your face? Nothing. Now, yes, if they've caused you injury that requires you to spend money, you can say, you must help me spend this money because you caused the injury. But the responsibility, once it's in your airspace, is yours.
Yeah.
And this is
and they're not taking
line.
any responsibility when they leave either.
No.
Often.
So, if they're gone, you're still, the pain is still in your face. But it's important that we use that language. I have a pain in my face now that I've been hit, that I need to take care of. Because all of that language, it might sound very, awkward to begin with, because we're so used to being in that blame language. But it means that you're saying, I'm responsible and it's temporary. In Gaelic language, the Irish language, the direct meaning of Tá Brón orm is, there is sadness upon me. not I am sad. We don't say I am sad in Gaelic. And I love that lots of languages other than English actually know that emotional states of being, physical states of being are temporary. Whereas the English language is a tricky one. We're very owned by English language. I am, you know. So it is. It's an interesting one. I mean, even in Italian, you say "ho fame," which is I have a little famine. You don't even say I'm hungry. There's not even, there's no I am. It's and
I
even
am
to,
is really powerful.
it is. It's so powerful. But just to keep an eye on these words till over time they become more at ease, that we're able to. And again, look, like, hey, I'm not saying I'm in any way good at it. It's just that I'm at the beginning of really, like, I knew it in theory. Now I'm trying to put it into practice more and more and more and more. Because at the end of the day, everything comes back to avoiding a feeling. I'm aware that I'm coming up to the anniversary of my children moving away, and so I'm loaded with sensation,
Yeah.
absolutely loaded with it. And it would be so easy to go into and be upset with them. But that would be avoiding the feeling. What's really going on is I'm having a massive feeling, which is no doubt why I struggled to get online this morning. There's a new moon in the sky, and I'm about to write to my parents to go and visit them next year. So either ends of my bloodline I'm not in great communication with at the moment. And so it's okay with me that I'm in a lot of physical sensation, but I've got to be mindful that I don't go into blame.
Right.
Because that doesn't take the pain away. Like, it literally doesn't. It makes it worse. So, like, do you want to make it worse? Do you put that shovel down and stop digging the hole? Stop now. And then, start putting it back in the hole. But it's a very tricky thing as humans, that we find ourselves so far down a road that we go, oh, well, I've done it now. I might as well keep going. It's a brave human that goes, no, I'm gonna go back, or I'm gonna change direction. I really admire those people who do that, because it's a massive adjustment. People go, I can't do anything else now. It's the only thing I know. It's like, oh gosh, there's people at 80 still learning, 90. It's okay to keep learning. It's possible.
It's a hallmark of longevity, isn't it? Being
Well,
able to learn and
indeed.
resilience.
It is indeed it is. It's knowing that you can, but you only know that you're resilient, or that you can cope, by having practiced. To be fair, like, it's where we try and have compassion for people that they're trying to learn how to cope in their 80s and they've never tried before. It's okay that they go, maybe next life it's too hard, and then we have some compassion for them, because it's a hell of a thing, for all the people who watch you here, for the people I work, my friends, your friends. We know that we're on the road less traveled because it appears hard.
Yeah.
It appears hard from the outside, but we wouldn't have it any other way, because at least we're in control. We can manage what's going on. When you're in blame, you'll be waiting.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots of stuff coming up. Well, thank you so much, Shara, for being here. I love you so much.
And you too. I long to be in the same room as you one of these days.
One of these days we're gonna do it. Yeah, I might be flying to Dublin. I just found out I can get a good deal on a flight to Dublin, and then running over to Nottingham, see my brother.
No way. When are you planning to do that?
I don't know. I'm looking at flights tomorrow.
Far out.
Yeah.
Well, if you can wait till February, I'll see you there.
Yay, that might be a deal. All right, everybody.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, everybody, for being here. And Shara, thank you very much for sharing it with us. So.
Oh, and yes, thank you for your input and having your patience with me and my technological slip.
But they are so used to it after the last couple of weeks. It's just been nonstop time glitches, technology. All right, everybody. We'll see you later. Thank you.
Bye.